hit record. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. So our topic today is Ask Me Anything about WebEx and ITV. We have a couple of very brief things to present to you, and then we'll get started with your questions or going round robin with our panelists about WebEx and ITV. So how can you learn about ITV telepresence other than being here today, which thank you for joining us? You can check out the ITS My Hudson WebEx resources page. There's a Canvas training module. We have twice weekly workshops, which communications makes notification to everybody via email. And always be watching for future training announcements. And then I encourage everyone to feel free to use our computer labs at hccc.edu email to reach out with questions. Also visit our ITS page and our WebEx resources page. This WebEx resources page is an invaluable tool if you want to learn more about WebEx. So I'm going to hand the ball over to Diana to show a brief video that goes over all the ITV spaces on our campuses that I think will be helpful to everyone.
Good afternoon. My name is Diana Perez. Thank you for being here. I will share a video with all the ITV rooms that we have in both campuses. And you can see every single ITV room and the future ITV room that we are planning to have.
Now I'll be going over the ITV rooms. ITV rooms are practically the future of classrooms. Throughout all of the Hudson campuses, we have consisted of 7 ITV rooms. But right now, I'll go over N504, N703, and L418. So inside all of these rooms, you'll find a smart tablet, which allows the user to control all the features of the room. Inside the tablet, you also find a WebEx call feature. You can join and call meetings. You get the use of these tablets. There's also a share screen option available inside the tablet where you can share your screen with the remote viewers as well as show it on the displays for the people that are in class. There's also a PC connected through the entire setup, which you can use to present files or to access your account. And most importantly, you can also connect your own personal laptop through the use of HDMI, which port is located on the wall. One of the clean things about these rooms is that speakers and microphones are connected in the ceilings, so you don't have to walk around with a handheld microphone or anything. Also, another neat thing is the voice tracking cameras, which makes presenting much easier. As you can see in the clip that I'm walking around and talking, and literally the camera's following me. So this is a really neat feature that all these rooms have. These rooms also consist of a video conferencing kit, which focuses on the students and tracks the back of the room, which provides also a superior sound quality for the viewers online. All of these rooms also contain an XP pen, which you can annotate the screen and show to the audience, which makes teaching much more easier. And also, most of these rooms contain desk camera, which you can use to record your desk or any writing on a piece of paper that's present on your desk. Now we'll look at the N203 multi-purpose room. You can see this really clean view of the entire multi-purpose room. It's a very big space, so it's perfect for an event or any classroom environment. Inside this room, you also see a smart tablet, which allows you to control all the features of the room just like the other rooms. We also have a WebEx call feature similar to the ones mentioned before, and also share screen options. But this time, the share screen options will be through the projectors that are present in the room. So there are a total of 3 projectors in the room, which are connected to 3 drop-down ceiling screens. So it's really good for visibility across the whole room. Now, all of this is connected through a personal laptop connection, which you can connect through HDMI via the port on the wall. These rooms also contain premium quality cameras, which covers the entire room, and you have to manually adjust them in any directions. Sound and microphones are also connected to the ceilings for this room. So next we'll be looking at the Scott Ring room. where you will see very similar to the other rooms, such as a smart tablet, which allows you to control all the features of the room, such as the WebEx call feature, so you can call other rooms or host meetings through the room itself. Also, share screen options, which shares your desktop to the displays present in the room. In this room, there are a total of 4 displays. There are 2 center displays, really big, so everyone in the room can see, and 2 displays on the pillar for the presenter to see. In this room, there are a total of 2 cameras, one which covers the presentation, or one which covers the audience in the room. While the sound comes from the ceiling of the room, which is very high quality, but for the input, we have to use handheld microphones located at the side of the room. Next, we'll be looking at the Banquet Hall. The Banquet Hall is very spacious and is really perfect for events, especially with the lightings and the sound options that it contains. So everything in the room is controlled by a smart tablet. With this tablet, you can control the audio and microphone and share files on the display and the projector. Through the tablet, there's also a WebEx call feature where you can join WebEx meeting and host virtual meetings with this room. There's also an option on this tablet to share screen. You can share the screen via the tablet, so you can share your desktop screen on the projector, the displays, and the WebEx meeting itself. There's a drop-down screen for the audience, so it's clear for them to view, which is also connected through a projector. It's also present in the room, so it's very clean for the audience. Next is also 2 TVs. One's for the presenter, so you can see what he's presenting, and one's for the audience in the back if they can't see the projector screen. The sharing your screen is done through the laptop which is present in the room, which is connected via HDMI. So if you want, you can also connect your own personal laptop with the help of HDMI. There's also a camera present in the room, which only covers the projector screen. The sound in this room comes from the ceiling itself, and for the microphone, they're located in pouches like these, which one of them contains the handheld microphone and other contains the lavalier microphones. Next, we'll be looking at the Johnston Room. It's very similar to Skyrim Room, but it's basically 3 rooms combined into 1 room. It's very big and spacious, as you can see. All this room and the technology is controlled by 3 smart tablets. These tablets are located near each entrance and controls the display, projector, and sound and microphone. These rooms also contain a WebEx call feature. You can join the WebEx meeting and host virtual meetings with this room itself. You can also share your screen. Basically, you can share your desktop screen via the use of the tablet, so you can share on the projectors and the displays and the WebEx meeting all together at once. Inside the room, you'll see a drop-down ceiling screen and the projector, so you can project any information or any media files directly onto the screen. Inside the room, there are also 3 really large displays. 2 of them are located in front of the room, and 1 large display is located at the back of the room. To share your files on the displays and the projector, you need to use the HDMI ports located at the side of the podium, where you can connect your own personal laptop and share your media files onto those displays. There are also 2 cameras present in the room. One's for the presenter, while the other one's for the audience, so you can cover literally the entire room. The sound in this room are all connected through the ceiling, so it's very clear. And for the microphone and the input, you can see a pouch similar to this, which contains a handheld microphone such as this one. Coming soon in spring 2021, there will be a new ITV room located in S103. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, Diana, for sharing that. We had a couple of things come up that are recent changes that I wanted to share before we get to some of our panelists' wisdom today. One is about guest behavior. So what that means is all of us who have HCCC WebEx accounts, so we're logged in right now, we automatically come into meetings without being admitted through a waiting room. But if someone is joining you, either it's an event or they don't know that they should be logged into their WebEx account, they will be put into a waiting room. So you should watch for that. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, because it's come up a lot recently, is incidents of what in the spring was being called Zoom bombing. Well, it's not only a Zoom thing. You can have people who for whatever reason, want to be disruptive in a class or meeting. So I want to share just a couple of things with you to help with that. Let me take back the presenter role. If I can share something with you. So this is our WebEx resources page. It's in the My Hudson portal, and I encourage you to go out and take a look at that, log in and take a look. There are links out here to videos and training, lots of tips and advice. But the one I want to show you today has to do with this WebEx security. So when you have somebody that's in a meeting with you or a class, and they're doing something that they should not be doing, the quickest thing to do is to take a look at them on the participants list, right-click that, and click expel. And once that person is out, they will not be able to come back into that meeting. The other thing you can do that I think is a good idea, possibly for classes, up to you, or things like interviews or confidential meetings, once everyone who needs to be in the meeting is there, you can lock the meeting. So you do that from the meeting controls and tell it's a lock meeting or lock event. And that means that nobody can join you after that. The other thing that is a great idea to do with meetings, particularly classes, I think, is if you are not going to have students doing presentations, you can just change in the participant list. You can change this anyone can share and turn that off. That way you can give the presenter role to somebody, like Diana and I were passing the ball, we call it, back and forth because it shows up like a blue circle on the list. You can pass that off deliberately, but no one can share without you knowing about it in advance. So, and as with anything else, you can always reach out to us at ITS Help or Computer Labs at HCCC. So now I'm going to stop talking, and we'll give everybody the opportunity to talk. So I think I'd like to get started by just kind of going around the room here, the virtual room, and talking about things we wish we knew sooner about WebEx. So I'm just going to go in the order that I see you on my list, which I know that varies. So Diana, would you like to share one thing that you wish you knew about WebEx earlier? Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I can hear you. Please.
I said, what is one thing about WebEx you wish you knew sooner?
Well, I would like to, when you're talking about the how to block the people,
Yeah.
I think that part was very interesting, especially in classes when the lab assistants are allowed to the student getting into the meeting. And if something happens like that, we can share that information with faculty. I think that one would be a very good tool for classes.
Thank you. How about you, Eurus? Do you have something you wish you knew sooner?
Well, I learned this recently, but one of the things that would have been helpful for me is knowing that when you're the host of a presentation, that you could actually mute people. Because I remember being in a situation that everyone is talking, and you kind of know who's talking, and they're having a phone conversation with someone else, and you're like, okay, please mute yourself. But then I noticed that as the admin or the host, you could actually go and mute the person, so that comes in very handily whenever you have a big event. And as Diana mentioned, also being able to to X out individuals whenever they're asking you like a tough question that you don't want to answer. That also comes in very handy. That last part was a joke, but that's my part.
How about you, Paula? What's something you wish you knew sooner?
I wish that I had known sooner that there was a tracking on the IT page. I mean, I always go there and look, but you don't really read everything. Tracking of attendance. So I still have to go back and do that now. So I learned that today, and I wish I'd known that sooner.
Right. And what Paula is talking about, just so everybody knows, and I'll type it into the chat, is if you go to HudsonCCC.webex.com, you can log into your, type this the wrong person, but that's all right. You can log in there and see actually information about your meetings. You can download the latest clients for your phone or your computer at home. So I encourage you to go look there. There's all kinds of good information. So Kyle, what is it that you wish you knew about WebEx sooner?
Well, we were actually talking about it before when sharing your screen and you want to share a video as you're sharing your screen, to change the little drop-down box at the top when you're in the share content menu that says like optimized for audio and visual, I think it is. It says optimized for audio, because I know when I first was trying to like share things a couple months ago with like the videos, it was no one could really hear it because it was coming out of the speakers and the microphone trying to pick it up rather than actually just playing directly through WebEx.
Thanks, Kyle. And another thing it's kind of new to WebEx is if you go into audio and video, there's an option for music mode. So for people so if you have video that includes music, or you're even playing music or singing, gosh, I'm not going to even demonstrate that because that's probably a bad idea. But if you go in music mode, it actually helps to not distort the music, because video conferencing software have features to make people speaking be picked up better that actually harms the quality of music. So that's my little new thing. So Peter, what would you like to share with the group that you wish you knew sooner?
The one thing I do in my classes, instead of sharing the video as the whole screen, if you use the share file, you can select multimedia, and then you get a pop-up window, and you can put in the video link for, like, let's say a YouTube video, and it will pop up on the side. One thing I wish I had known is sometimes if you don't stop the video before the commercials start playing, on the student side, the commercials will continue to play. So what they'll have to do is log out and log back into the meeting. Otherwise, those commercials can keep playing depending on their bandwidth. I think it just gets in a loop. So that's one thing that definitely you didn't know until I shared it.
Well, and it's always fun working with you. As much as I love YouTube videos, boy, they love to show us their ads and pop-ups and links and whatnot, right? Amala, do you have anything that you'd like to share that you wish you knew sooner?
Sure. I wish I knew when I use the lockout function, or the when you expel a student, because sometimes I would cut it off at the 15-minute mark so students can't come into the class late.
Right.
To remember to actually pay attention to my pop-ups, because if students lose service or lose connection, then they can't get back into the room. So I wish I had known sooner to pay attention to that, and then I wouldn't have had some issues with students who were actually present for the day, but once they got kicked out, I wasn't aware to let them back in the room.
Yeah, that's a good point. All of these features that we add to, like, make things more secure always have there's the law of unintended consequences. So, yeah, we have to kind of keep track and watch what is going on, watch our participants list. Colin, how about you? What's something that you wish you knew sooner?
I would say the opening and sharing a file as opposed to, say, sharing the application. I found this especially useful with PowerPoint because it integrates it actually into the WebEx meeting itself. I believe that's how you just shared yours right there. And you actually see, you see the arrows on the side and you could actually advance. So I found out about that right before supporting College Service Day. And I think that was a big reason that it went as well as it did. Because you could also, it doesn't tie your hands as much as when you're actually having a PowerPoint open in the background, I would say. Because it integrates it with the meeting.
Right. Yeah, I actually like the way that works. I know it varies, right? If you want to have fancy animations and things like that, I think that stuff doesn't work very well. But if you just have a pretty simple PowerPoint, that's not as much of an issue. How about you, Ken? What's something you wish you knew sooner?
Well, I don't know if I would say if I knew this sooner, but I just want to make a couple of observations. I've been using WebEx for a number of years, and I've seen it evolve substantially over the years, especially in the area of screen sharing. Originally, WebEx, when you shared a screen, you shared your whole desktop. There was no discrimination. You couldn't choose any kind of application. Everybody would be able to see your desktop, whether you wanted them to or not. So a nice feature WebEx has now is that, as Colin mentioned, you can share individual applications. If you share your desktop, you might not want your students to see your emails that come in. You want them just to see the PowerPoint presentation, so you can select the PowerPoint app just to display your presentation. What you should be mindful, though, of is if you want to switch to another application, you have to stop sharing PowerPoint and then share the other application, whether it be Excel or Word or what have you. But feature that evolved over the years is the ability to remote assist using WebEx. For example, as a technician, I was able to set up an individual meeting with another WebEx user, ask that person to share his or her screen, and take control of his or her computer via WebEx for troubleshooting and support. So that's a useful feature that many people may not know.
Yeah, and the good part of that is the user is in control of it. So they have to both give you access to their screen and give you permission. So it's not just like, oh, I shared my screen and now you can poke around on my computer. No, I have to give permission for that. So how about you, Willie? What's your thing you wish you knew sooner?
Well, I would say that with the new feature of the breakout sessions I learned during college service, not college service day, but the open house, is that when you create a breakout sessions and you move individuals into a particular session, if they had some type of interference and they got kicked out, for example, you have to expel them from the breakout session, and then they can join the main event, and then you can move them back into another session if you like.
Oh, yeah, that's important to know. That's kind of like we were talking earlier about, Amala was saying that, you lock a meeting and then, somebody loses their internet connection. Same principle, right?
Right.
I know it happens rarely to me. I rarely lose my connection, but it's kind of eerie when you come back into a meeting and yourself is already there. You have to kind of wait for that connection to die for the old version of you to go away. So I think let's just go around and say if there's one particular item that is helpful to you either in teaching or in your daily work that you use a lot. I'll start with Diana again. What's one feature that you think is particularly useful? Oh, I think you're muted. Hang on. There you go.
Okay. If we are talking about using the ITV room, right? Because it's very common right now that we are having classes, is how to share the whiteboard when the professor, they ask how to see the whiteboard. because when you try to look for the whiteboard, most of the time is the last application on the bottom. So as soon as you try to open, they don't see anything. So that means some professors, they think that is nothing there, that is not working properly. So I think that future, especially for classes, is very important, how to let them know how can they see the whiteboard at the end, at the bottom of the option.
I think I might be able to, maybe we can show that. All right, I've got the ball, so to speak. Let me see if I can share my screen. I don't know if this is going to put me into some weird mode. But anyway, you can share, and the very last thing is sharing a new whiteboard, like Diana was saying. And I think in this mode, can you see that, Diana?
No.
Oh, of course not, because it's like a conundrum. Anyway, I thought I was going to geniusly show you all something that you can't actually see. Yeah, what Diana's talking about is in WebEx, at the bottom now, you're always going to see kind of these buttons going across. And when you get to share in the middle, like she said, since WebEx is greatly helpful on showing you all kinds of different ways to share, but the first thing is screens. Then the second group is all the applications you have going, which might be a lot of stuff. And then at the very end and last option is a new whiteboard. So that's a very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's why maybe I always recommend in the training is to close any application if they have open before any classes, so that way they can avoid all those windows open.
Right, unless things filter through. So Willie, what is one of your favorite features?
Favorite feature? I can't say favorite feature just yet. I think I'm still really hands-on with WebEx. But I found necessarily, I guess, to have a successful event or class or meeting is to have all your materials present, ready, tested, like particularly videos necessarily on YouTube. Sometimes things may have to buffer, so you want to play the video in its entirety first, and then just pause it and start it from the beginning, so that when you're ready to play it, it's ready to play.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. That's a great point. How about you, Ken? What's a favorite feature or tip?
I really liked how this current version of WebEx allows to record events and meetings. In the old days of WebEx a few years ago, those were actually separate applications you had to download to get them to work properly. Essentially, what you had to do is open a WebEx session, then open this other application and basically do a screen. Essentially, it was a screen capture. But with the new WebEx now, you just hit record, and it records your meeting. Very easy. You have two options. You can either save the recording locally to your desktop or to the cloud. The cloud recording is better quality, but typically takes longer. And the the local computer recording is faster, but is typically lesser quality. It depends on what you're really looking for. If you're looking for quality and are willing to wait for it, you can save your recording to the cloud and retrieve it later. If you need it quickly, you could save it locally to the computer.
That's a great point, Ken. And actually, for everyone's information, the other thing that's nice about the cloud recording aspect of WebEx is that it does transcripts for you. So it will actually transcript out what was in the meeting, which is great for accessibility if you need a video, accessible video, or for like lectures that you might want to use another time. Now, and you can also, similar to captioning in YouTube, then you can go in and correct the transcript if something was not quite right, which we all know sometimes happens with these automated systems. How about you, Kyle? Any tips or things you particularly like?
I really like using the annotation feature when you're sharing your screen, especially when you're trying to explain something to someone else. Usually, like when you're right next to the person, it's easy to point things out and like explain something. So with the annotation feature, it's easy to like draw right on the screen, put an arrow, circle something, underline something as you're going through whatever it might be you're going through, either for class or during a meeting. I really like the whole annotation feature.
Yeah, that's another great point. So how about you, Paula? Any tips you'd like to share or some favored feature?
I don't have a tip because I'm still learning WebEx. The whiteboard I haven't used yet, but I like whiteboards. I've used them in my classes that I've taken online. But can students use whiteboards in the breakout room?
I think the answer to that is yes. I believe you get all the features, but we should test it out and make sure.
Okay. I would like to use that. That's what I'm interested in.
That's a great idea. Like I said, I'm about 98% sure that you get all the features, but I haven't done it personally, so. How about you, Peter? A particular tip or favorite feature?
One secret feature, if you go to view, you can hide participant names. So if you're recording a lecture and you don't want all the students' names to be shown, you can just hide the names and then you can record, and in privacy it's not as much of an issue since their names won't be listed.
Oh, that's a good point.
People don't know about that, yeah.
That's a great point. How about you, Eurus? Any ideas?
Well, one of the things that I particularly enjoy, particularly when having Zoom meetings, is that you have the option to conduct a poll. You know, you ask a quick question, people respond to it, and polls might not really be as important for you to collect information from the audience. I mean, you might need it, but you know, the importance of polls is that they allow you to kind of provide a break in between a presentation to increase engagement. Because, you know, if you are speaking for 2 hours, and a lot of our meetings are 2 hours, it could get a little bit dense. But every so often you share something, a quick video, a poll, you know, and that provides a type of interaction that, you know, that helps. And I know with some of the latest upgrades with WebEx, we now can do that.
Yes, we can. And there's a little poll creator tool. It's pretty nifty. Let's see. Who did I not call on yet? I think, how about Amala?
I don't know if I have a tip, but I think I found it really useful once on Cisco and, WebEx and Canvas. The way that you can create your link, it just made it a lot easier because I had a lot of trouble using Canvas conferences. Mm-hmm. So WebEx just made it easier for me to conduct my classes, and it was a lot more seamless that way for me. And because I could create the meeting straight from my Canvas shell, I didn't have to go separately into WebEx to create it and then upload it into Canvas. It was just in one spot.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was something that we and COL worked on for the fall semester, and I'm going to share my screen just for a second to show everyone where you can find information on how to set up the Canvas connector. So that is, again, on our My Hudson WebEx resources page. And then right here on the right-hand side, there's a video section that talks about the WebEx Canvas connector and WebEx class meetings. So that's what Amala is talking about. So once you've integrated your WebEx to your Canvas, so it's a one-time thing, I think these videos might be a grand total of 5 or 6 minutes. It's very brief. And then what you do is those WebEx meetings are right in your Canvas shell. So not only is it easier for you, but I think it's a lot easier for the students, because then they only have to know they have to go to the Canvas shell rather than having to. I think Diana could probably speak to this a little bit, but sometimes students have difficulty knowing, do they go to their calendar, do they go to their email, do they go to Canvas? Could you speak to that for just a minute, Diana? What you and the lab assistants have seen with this?
Yes, it's very common, like you say, that some students, they don't know even how to getting into the Canvas. So my lab assistant always try to help them how to first getting into the Canvas and look for WebEx and then try to connect it. I know this is always a problem as well with professors, because they don't know, sometimes the Canvas and WebEx, they're integrated right now, so they don't have to start looking for emails because the list is right there. So it's pretty easy to communicate with the students as well. And I think, yeah, that's the most common that we have during classes when we try to help classes.
Yeah, I could actually share. I have a test course. Maybe I'll share that. And again, everyone who's attending, feel free to type any questions either in the chat or in Q&A. But here, so this is Canvas. And you have Cisco WebEx is in there. And this is just a test course, obviously, since I'm not actually teaching anything right now. But it'll tell you here, I set this up as a test. There's Tuesday meetings, right, for this fictitious class that exists on Tuesday from 2 to 3. So all I would have to do is go in here and hit start. And this is from the perspective of obviously being faculty rather than as a student. So the point is, it's in your task, it's in your course shell under Cisco WebEx, and it's really just a couple of clicks. Again, I encourage you to go out to that WebEx resources page and watch those couple of little videos that'll show you how to do that. But that's nice because it's right there now. You don't have to think about going into a whole bunch of different places. So I'll just kind of open it up to any of our panelists. Is there anything else that we haven't already shared that you think would be of value to any of our faculty or students in using WebEx or video meetings in general?
Yes, Tricia, to download the client, if you go to hudsoncccc.webex.com and log in with your college credentials, you can download the client that's appropriate for our environment. And we found that using the client as opposed to viewing the meeting in the browser is for the most part better quality. So we recommend that people who use WebEx download and use the client. And all of the college's computers have the client installed on them already. So if you're using a personal computer or one of your students is using his or her own computer, they can go to hudsoncccc.webex.com to download and install the client.
Yep, great point. Yeah, you can also go there and get the client for your mobile phone or tablet as well. So whatever device you happen to be using, you can get it from there. And like Ken was saying, any college computer should already have the client installed. So that is kind of taken care of for you, but if you're using it on another device. Anybody else have any tips? Things to remember?
Trisha, I like the new feature that you could have multiple co-hosts now. I believe that came out with the breakout rooms update. I know that's been super useful for Willie and I in a support role, but I think that could also be very useful in the classroom. If you can assign somebody to maybe a student or a teaching assistant or a lab assistant to mute participants or unmute participants or even set up breakout rooms so you can kind of concentrate on your presentation.
Yeah, that's Colin. That's a great point. Another thing for across the college, feel free to reach out to ITS for help. We're happy to assign lab assistants to help with in-person and remote classes. And for any events, we're happy to be your mute-unmute button so that you don't have to be concerned about that part. I know sometimes, depending on what we're presenting, we want to focus on the content and answering questions in the chat and not worrying about, wait, what is that funny buzzing noise in the background or what have you. And like Iris was saying, we attend a lot of meetings and we're not always the host, so we might not remember that as the host, you can go to that participants list and just right-click there and hit mute all and, kind of go about your business without having to worry about a lot of background noise. And if you have a co-host or co-pilot, that person could let you know, hey, you've got a question in the chat or someone wants to say something. Any other tips?
Tricia, I don't have one particular tip, but in general, I just want to say that this is new. Our job responsibilities, our daily tasks are different. Everyone's has different, you might be in meetings, you might be in classrooms, you might be using this for other things. But I just would like to encourage everyone to play around with it. To explore a little bit more than what you normally do, because the fact that we do not use it might not mean that we might not be able to benefit from it. There's so much there that you could do. I mean, the breakout rooms, the polls, and everything else that was discussed today.
Yes. We have a question from Patrick Moore. Are you aware of common limitations caused by viewing the meeting on a phone? I would say, well, I have a few thoughts about that, and then we can kind of go around. One of the major limitations to viewing video conferences on a phone, and this exists in Zoom also, is that you have to decide whether you want to look at the video or the chat or the content. You don't have as many choices, so on times when I've had trouble with my laptop, for example, and I've had to switch over to a phone, what I find kind of challenging with that is I do have to flip back and forth to see, oh, look, there's a chat. Okay, now I have to go to this, I have to scroll to the screen with the chat and then go back so that I can see everyone. And I know that content can sometimes be challenging if you're on a phone or any smaller form factor device. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Tricia. In addition, if you're viewing a meeting, particularly a video meeting on the phone, you're also subject to cellular signal quality. So the worse quality, the lower signal you have, the quality is going to suffer. So the video is going to be jerky, or the audio may drop out. So there's issues with that. I suggest that if you participate in a WebEx meeting from a phone, you try to do so audio only. That way you don't have to worry about video quality. The audio quality is pretty good, and also cuts down on battery usage. Recently, I hosted a meeting from my phone, a WebEx meeting from my phone, a half-hour meeting, and it took about 20% of my battery. So that's something else to consider.
Right, and I think that in the case where you're on Wi-Fi and having poor performance, sometimes switching to a phone is better, right? So if you have a bad Wi-Fi connection, sometimes switching over to your phone might be better. Again, that's all subject to cellular cell strength and what your Wi-Fi conditions are. Unfortunately, there's a lot. It's complicated. So Patrick asked, can people answer a poll from a phone? I'm not sure because I haven't tried it. I'll see. You know, is anyone else aware of whether you can or cannot answer a poll question from a phone?
Trisha, I believe you can, but it's kind of tricky to find the options on the phone because it's hidden in the WebEx client. You have to swipe around to get to that area where you need, like you would for chats or sharing or whatnot.
Right. I can actually go look that up, I think.
In my experience in the classes doing polls, the student has to actually click on the poll function to get to the poll to answer it. It doesn't just pop up like the computer.
Right. I think it's a similar issue to what I was saying with chats. You have to switch to a different panel, which you may or may not realize is there. Diana, did you have something?
No, not really.
So again, I think the complication is realizing that you have to kind of switch panes, I guess, for lack of a better terminology. You just have more screen real estate on a laptop where you have room to put all these different panels, right? And they have to, when they create the app for the phone or tablet, really doesn't matter. Realizing you only have so much real estate, they have to organize the user interface in a different way. So Patrick's question is, should we think of a policy for student engagement and or the best technology for attending a class? I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of these topics have come up in All College Council, on the Academic Affairs Committee, right? And Peter may have some thoughts on that. I know Ken and the ACC Technology Committee is discussing that, what technology is necessary and how to get it in the hands of students. Do you have any thoughts on that, Peter?
And this has, again, been a discussion that we've had multiple times, whether we can force students to be fully engaged. That is definitely a limitation. Just being signed on does not mean they're engaged in the class. And so at this point, the college has basically left it up to the faculty to enforce that engagement and base any participation grade on each individual faculty. So there's not a current college policy-wide to encourage that engagement. So that's something that could be discussed further.
I would say in the short term, it's something I would encourage. Is something you could put either in your syllabus or in announcements on Canvas that, I recommend that you use a laptop if you have one, possibly reminding students that they can borrow technology from the college. They can get a Chromebook, they can come to our open labs and use a computer. There are ways that they can get their hands on technology that they might not personally own, and I would encourage students to request that technology. That's what we have it for. And we do have quite a few Chromebooks that are available to borrow, and that information is available on the Return to Campus page. I believe it's by Hudson prominently in several different locations. So again, Patrick, for your class specifically, if you think that a certain level of technology is necessary to, what do I want to say, make your life as a student easier, I would think that it makes sense to mention limitations to you taking a class on the phone. I was just talking to a friend of mine who is a history professor, not at our college out in Michigan, and she was talking about her students taking classes on a phone and how difficult it is. And so we're not the only ones. Anything else that any of the panelists would recommend as far as student engagement in a remote modality, or, whether it be WebEx or anywhere? I think Yuris alluded to, using polls to break things up. Another thing is chat questions. I've heard several faculty mention to me that they do, engagement via chat to kind of bring out those shy students or students that have their cameras turned off, who we may think that they're not paying attention, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Maybe that's where the rubber hits the road, right? I found in meetings, professional development, and even video conferencing that I've been engaged with during this pandemic time is sometimes typing things in chat does sort of start to bring people out of their shell a little bit if they're feeling a little shy. Okay, Patrick says the big challenge will be half the class in person while the other half are remote. What would be the best technology for an instructor? Diana, do you want to talk a little bit about how that's working with some of the faculty or Yuris or Amala who are interfacing with folks that are using like the ITV rooms to do this same thing? Or Peter?
In my experience, right now that I'm working with my lab assistant, and we have 2 classes during the week. And yeah, we have a student in person and the other one, they are remote. And I think that's the best experience. The professor is very happy working that way, because even sometimes she chooses the campus. Sometimes she's in North Hudson, and sometimes it's here in Journal Square. And we provide a lab assistant, so that way the professor and even the student, they feel comfortable. If something happened with the technology or any question the professor has, is very useful during the class. I think it's very good as well because they can interact as well with the professor. The way how the ITV room is set up with those TVs that we have in the back, the camera, the ceiling microphone, I think doesn't have any limitation that maybe the professors, they can move around the room and start talking with the student or showing any, could be any, if they want to use the whiteboard and write something. I think it will be a very, very good experience right now during this pandemic. Use the ITV room. It's easy. We have all the tools. We have the XP pen. We have the document camera. I don't see any limitation using ITV room.
And I wanted to add, Tricia, to Patrick's point. One of the classes that we have that is being conducted, ITV modality during this semester. Some of the students are coming in, are going into the classroom where the professor is teaching. Some of the other students are in the other campus connected remotely, and some of the other students, again, on the account of the pandemic and providing flexibility to them, they're actually logging in remotely. And providing all those three different options for students, the feedback that I'm getting from the professor and from the students is that it's something that is welcomed. Again, this is like the pandemic world that COVID-19 world that we're still dealing with, but having all those different options kind of adapts to the students. Like everyone has different situations. Like maybe I prefer to come to campus, but I can't. Maybe I could go to the other campus that is closer to my house, but I still can't, And I know that there are also students that 1 week show up to this location, the other week show up to the other location. So, personally, I like the flexibility. The professor seems to be happy with that, and so are the students. But, this is new. I think that there's a lot more room for us to grow in it and, to learn more and to use it in ways that we probably were not thinking that we're going to be able to use it in the future.
Right. And the other thing we're working on is expanding the technology, and as we add more classrooms to the ITV modality and also just adding some remote options, like one item that we have one of right now is called a WebEx board. So rather than being several TVs and cameras and whatnot, it's a interactive touch screen that's a camera and shows video. So for somewhere we need to be flexible, like it might be this classroom this day and another classroom another day, and also looking at adding more tablets that people can write on to use a WebEx whiteboard, right? Or adding a WebEx board to the room so that there's more and better whiteboarding capabilities, and looking into different technologies. There's a Wacom tablet. You might be familiar with that. It's very popular for people that do digital art, which would be a small one. But we're looking at larger ones where you could actually be seated at a desk and be interacting with WebEx or Microsoft Teams or campus conferences or whatnot to actually draw and annotate like Kyle was talking about earlier. And in a less awkward way than you might with your mouse. I don't know about you all, but when I try to sign or write something with my mouse, it looks like a 6-year-old did it. So it's better when we have, and that's where these tablets come in. So we're adding things, and we learn, like Yoris was saying, it's new, and we're learning a lot. And Cisco is learning a lot about the education, higher education. Well, WebEx is not new. It's probably at least 20 years old as a platform, but they're adding things all the time. So I see that we're at the end of the hour, and I appreciate everyone hanging in there for even a few minutes afterwards with us. Any closing thoughts before we sign off?
No.
And thanks, Patrick, for the engagement. Thank you for being here. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here today, and we really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.